Hey, thank you everyone for hanging in there this afternoon. I'm going to be talking about the trusted cloud for government. My name is Sean Phuphanich. I'm a solutions architect at AWS with the worldwide public sector. And so what that means is I help people in many phases of their cloud journey and help them design solutions around their cloud or hybrid cloud objectives. And so when we talk about trust, let's just start at an individual level. Who do you trust? So it may be a parent, someone who protects you or helps you grow. It may be a partner, someone that keeps your secrets, or someone that's responsive to your needs. And funny enough, the AWS cloud also has some attributes like this. And so we help protect you through security services and tools that we offer you. We help you grow and scale at any level across the globe through our different cloud regions. We can keep your secrets secure. We can also keep your secrets from ourselves by letting you use your own encryption keys and store only your encrypted data. And we respond to your needs because we are a customer-centric company. So we regularly take feedback from our customers and our partners that goes into our products and services. About 90% of our roadmap is customer driven. And we also have 24/7 enterprise support. So both commercial and public sector have widely adopted the public cloud. AWS is worldwide, and so we serve government agencies, education institutions, and nonprofits. In the US, we serve anywhere from military to the general federal agencies to also state and local governments. And for the larger organizations, a lot of times we're helping them manage cost and make it easier to manage their workloads. And for some of the smaller organizations, we're helping them do really world-changing things that they didn't think were possible with their small teams and budget. Cost still is one of the largest drivers in public sector moving to cloud. And so there's a few major ways that you're able to do that. Our economies of scale allow us to offer things that aren't easily done at a smaller scale. So we can offer a huge range of compute and storage options that you can mix and match. And so very commonly, a way people save money is by right-sizing resources on a regular basis. So, when you first plan to launch a new app, you may think you need 50 CPUs and 100 gigabytes of RAM, and a year in you may realize you only need half that. Well, in the cloud you're able to constantly resize as needed, so you can scale up, you can scale down. All you need to do is really reboot. But if you buy that hardware yourself, then you're pretty much stuck with it until your hardware refresh cycle, and for some organizations that may be 5 years or more. We also have savings mechanics that if you are running workloads for a year or more, you can get a significant savings, which can cut your bills in half. And we also have managed services. And so this can reduce your overall cost of ownership. So for things like our database services, it typically requires specialized resources or teams to manage those. But if you're using a managed service on AWS, it can significantly cut down the amount of time your team needs to manage that and the specialized knowledge that is required to do that. And so, as you can imagine, the definition of cloud is really expanded into almost everything. So for almost all varieties of workloads and use cases that you can think of, the cloud is one of the places those happen. If we look at some of the more common workloads we see for agencies that are just now considering the cloud, they often start with things like backup and recovery. So they'll send their third copy of data over to us for safekeeping, because we replicate that 3 times into 3 different locations. Or they may want to replace their existing tape archiving process, and so they'll use something like S3 with the Glacier storage class that allows them to get faster access to their archives if they need it, but for the most part, they just want to be able to store things at a very cheap rate. And from an economic standpoint, one of the easiest ones to justify is going to be disaster recovery. This is because, for any production workload you have, for disaster recovery, you essentially have to double the price if you're doing it on your own. And so if the cloud can give you that capability for maybe 10% of that cost, that's typically a big win for a lot of teams. And I won't go over all of these right now, but I have some additional slides that I'll talk about some of these workloads specifically. So Juniper is actually in Australia. They're a healthcare provider. And like many companies and organizations, when the COVID lockdowns hit, there was a sudden surge to go to remote work. And so they were really within days able to transition to a set of Amazon tools for remote work. So we have Amazon Workspaces, which is our virtual desktops, Amazon Chime, which is our messaging and video conferencing tool, and Amazon Connect, which is actually for call center management and automation. You guys may also be familiar with a company called Zoom. So they are also a very large video conferencing partner of ours. And when COVID hit, they also had to scale up in a very short time span and support customers all over the globe. So they relied on AWS to be able to go from 10 million daily meeting participants to 300 million daily meeting participants. Where in some days they were adding 6,000 servers a night in capacity to be able to meet the needs of their customers, and Amazon was able to support them. Blackboard, for those of you in the education space, you'll be familiar with this. This is an education technology company. They also manage their own data centers, but when the demand skyrocketed last year, they also looked to AWS to help them. And what they found is they liked the AWS platform so much in terms of its ease of use, its ability to scale, the way they were able to manage costs. They actually shut down most of their other data centers. So they didn't just add to their capacity, they actually transitioned their capacity over to AWS. And FINRA is a regulator for the markets. And they actually adopted AWS quite a while ago, and so they're one of our advanced users. And so they benefited from moving to serverless technology. So this is a way to develop your compute resources that can be built in 1 millisecond increments, and so it can instantly scale up or down in that same time frame. So you can imagine when the market on any given day or moment, there's a big news outbreak, the trade volume can surge dramatically. And so they were able to use this technology that can spin up much faster than traditional servers can. It also ended up being much more cost effective for them because any moment they weren't using, that did not go towards their billing. So the way AWS is able to do all this is really through our economies of scale. We do have a global infrastructure, and we design everything around AWS regions. So in the US, that is going to be on the eastern and western United States. And this region design is really what makes the cloud so reliable and scalable. And so that same high availability infrastructure AWS services run on are also where you can run your own applications and store your own data. And so each region can have at least 3 availability zones. And within those, there are data centers that have their own separate power, networking, and disaster planes. And so we're able to give you the ability to replicate between those availability zones while keeping them far enough apart that if disaster strikes or power goes out, that you still have a region that's fully up and running. And so again, the economies of scale allow us to continually offer newer and better services. So adding features to our existing services and bringing out new ones. So we now have over 200 across many categories of IT. You really don't need to know all of these. These are things that as you have new needs, we can help you discover them. but it can help you streamline security and deployment because these services work well together. So if you have, let's say, a website or web application, you can easily add a web application firewall or a CDN or a load balancer or logging and monitoring. And so this is how we're able to allow you to quickly and easily connect all these pieces for a successful workload. In addition to everything that AWS offers, our system actually allows our partners to thrive as well. So we have thousands of different software offerings, a lot of which you may run today. So for example, VMware, who spoke earlier today, and Nashuni, who has the next session, these are both partners of ours that run on top of AWS. And you're really only a few clicks away from being able to deploy a working application from partners you may even use today in your data centers. So that economies of scale also applies to security and compliance. So because we're working with regulatory agencies, we're working across the globe, we're working with the government, it sets high standards for everyone. So all of the security controls, all of the proactive monitoring and management that we do in our infrastructure, every customer benefits from this. And so even if you're only spending $20 a month on AWS, you're getting a lot of the same benefits that our largest customers get. Now, one of the differentiating points for AWS is going to be the GovCloud. So we have our commercial regions that have all the same technology and security controls and services, but they are meant to regulate up to FedRAMP moderate. Once you start looking at ITAR or FedRAMP high or anything above DoD IL4, this is where you're going to want to look at the GovCloud. So this is a specialized region separate from all of our commercial control planes that specifically is built and managed to support these higher end compliance workloads. And so a couple of the other things that make it unique, we do have two regions. So there's one both in the East and the West, so that allows you to cover the entire United States. And these are managed by US citizens on US soil. So we have special restrictions even internally on who can work with and access GovCloud. And so then you also have the benefit of that. GovCloud is meant for any controlled but unclassified workloads. If you do have classified information that you are dealing with, we do also have secret regions, but that is all I can tell you because it's a secret. But if you are looking for classified workload information, we do have a separate tier above GovCloud that I'm sure we would love to talk to you about. And so as far as compute services, we really have the three categories. So the ones you'll probably be most familiar with are going to be virtual machines and bare metal servers. We offer all the way up to 100 gigabit networking, 448 logical processors, and 24 terabytes, not gigabytes, terabytes of RAM in a single instance. So if you're looking to run massive, large systems, high performance, we have that capability. At the same time, if you want to run a single CPU, 2 gigs of RAM or 4 gigs of RAM workload, that's perfectly fine too. You're able to scale it to your needs and pay accordingly. We also have management services for containers. So if you're trying to manage Docker or Kubernetes clusters, Elastic Container Service, and also EKS are our systems for doing that. And then in the serverless space, this is something that we've been innovating aggressively in the last few years. We have Lambda, which are serverless functions that now also supports the ability to run Docker containers. So further expanding access to that serverless compute. And again, the advantage of that is getting down to that 1 millisecond billing time and being able to scale up and down more rapidly. In storage, We focus on offering a range of high performance options as well as cost optimization. And so it allows you to mix and match what you need. Because we have all the options available for you, you can pick a la carte and optimize what you need for the right cost and performance. So in S3, if you need scalable quick access, you can use S3 standard. If you're looking for a tape replacement and you're really just trying to minimize costs, then using the S3 Glacier Deep Archive class of storage allows you to get super, super low cost, but you do not get immediate access to the information. So that you make a request, it retrieves it, and then you get access to it. Elastic Block Store, this is kind of the backbone of all of our block storage. So all of our EC2 servers typically get connected to this. And again, here you can decide if you want SSDs, you can decide if you want magnetic hard drives. And for the SSDs, you can even scale up or down the IOPS that you want. So if you're just running a simple web server, you can run it on a fast SSD, but relatively cheap. But if you're running a production database server, you may want to scale up the IOPS and pay for that extra performance. Database services, this is another big value add. So database services are one of those things that it usually takes specialized resources to manage. You usually have to have a DBA or someone specialized in how to manage those. These are offered as managed services. So if you run Oracle or MySQL or Microsoft SQL today, you can reduce your total cost of ownership by moving that onto AWS and taking advantage of a managed service. We also have NoSQL databases. So these are more popular with people who are designing their own applications and looking to do something at a large scale. And we also have data warehouse services that help with your analytics workload. So for example, FINRA, who I was talking about previously, not only have they used Serverless, but they also have used Amazon Redshift to be able to analyze a huge amount of data. And one of our newer and more advanced offerings, this is the machine learning stack. So you may have heard quite a bit about this in the last few years. Not only do we offer the tools for data scientists and developers to create their own machine learning services, we are really striving to offer AI services that are easier to consume for people without that data science experience. So if you look at the top bar here for our AI services, these are where we really want to help people that just want to be able to migrate data into the cloud and get kind of instant value from it. And so you can take things like image recognition, or if you need to do translation. So if you have text or audio that you need to translate, you're able to do that. If you want to convert digital documents into, or excuse me, paper documents into digital documents or text, we have that capability. Chatbots have become very popular. So one of the ways we've seen those used in the public sector is when the unemployment surge hit last year. We had a state that actually deployed both our chatbot and our Amazon Connect contact center. And they were able to help automate the process to help their applicants find what information they needed, where the right place to apply was, and start that application. And so it greatly reduced the workload on their call center staff. And then they were able to not have to completely redeploy or redesign their website because they were able to filter more of that traffic through the chatbots. And two really powerful pieces that I don't think get enough attention are forecasting and fraud detection. And so forecasting is really being able to predict anything in advance. And so really where that comes in handy are things like inventory management. So let's say you were having to manage vaccine distribution or medical supplies, and you needed to quickly and accurately send the right amount out. If you send too much to one location and not enough to another, then you have a problem. Some of it either goes to waste or someone doesn't get what they need. It can also be used for outside of COVID for things like construction supplies. You can also do your workforce planning. So let's say you have offices for your citizens in particular locations that are only busy on certain days or times or time of the year. If I had to wait at an office for 3 hours, I wouldn't be particularly happy by the time I got to actually interact with someone that works at that office. But if I'm able to better manage the number of workers to the number of people that need that service, then it kind of makes everybody happier. So I'm happier because I don't have to wait in line as long as I'm getting service. And then as an employee, I'm happier because I'm not dealing with angry customers that are angry before I even have a chance to help them. And then with fraud detection, we saw some kind of large instances of this last year. So when unemployment benefits became available, we saw a lot of people attempting fraud there. The Paycheck Protection Program has also seen instances of fraud where people are creating fake businesses or faking their payroll. And then even in tax returns, this is something that's been ongoing. So whether it's at the state or federal level, there are either people that are going through identity theft and actually applying for tax return benefits on behalf of someone else, or they're not representing their taxes appropriately. And so if you have, these kind of engines that can be integrated into existing applications, or even just with the data that you have for those systems, because a lot of those systems, you may not be able to move all of them to the cloud. They may be deeply integrated and long-lived in your branch offices, across the state or the country. But if you can aggregate that data, and then you can get that into the cloud, then you can expose it to these other services that you can take advantage of. And that's one of the cool things that, our next speaker, Tom, who works for Nasuni, will also be able to mention of how their product can also help you connect with our ML stacks. So I want to thank you for your time this afternoon.